The assembly will now come to order. The chief clerk will call the roll.
Assemblywoman Anderson, Assemblywoman Backus, Assemblywoman Bilbray Axelrod, Assemblywoman Brown May, Assemblyman Carter, Assemblywoman Cohen, Assemblywoman Considine, Assemblyman DeLong, Assemblywoman Dickman, Assemblyman De Silva, Assemblywoman Duran, Assemblywoman Gallant, Assemblywoman Gonzalez, Assemblywoman Gorlow, Assemblyman Gray, Assemblyman Gurr, Assemblyman Hafen, Assemblywoman Hanson, Assemblywoman Hardy, Assemblyman Hibbets, Assemblywoman Howdigi, Assemblywoman Kasama, Assemblyman Koenig, Assemblywoman LaRue Hatch, Assemblywoman Marzola, Assemblyman MacArthur, Assemblywoman Brittany Miller, Assemblyman C.H. Miller, Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno, Assemblywoman Mosca, Assemblywoman Newby, Assemblyman Wynn, Assemblyman O'Neill, Assemblyman Orlicker, Assemblywoman Peters, Assemblywoman Summers Armstrong, Assemblywoman Taylor, Assemblywoman Thomas, Assemblywoman Torres, Assemblyman Watts, Assemblyman Urick, Speaker Yeager.
Here. Assemblywoman Howdigi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. May the record show we have 42 members present.
The record shall so reflect. We have 42 members present. That means we do have a quorum. Would members of the assembly and guests please rise? We have the prayer this morning by Pastor Bruce Henderson, Airport Road Church of Christ, from right here in Carson City.
Let us pray. Our dear Lord, in the midst of meetings and hearings, deadlines, and all the hustle and bustle around us, we take a moment to just be still. May we inhale your presence and exhale the turmoil around us. We ask for your peace as those around the world celebrate Passover and freedom from captivity, while others celebrate a sacrifice made to bring eternal freedom. Hear us as we rejoice in the many freedoms you have showered upon us. Amen.
Please remain standing for the presentation of colors to be presented by the Scottish American Military Society Color Guard.
Detail. Halt. Post. Detail. Forward. March. Detail. Hold.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And please remain standing while the color guard exits, and a round of applause for them, please.
Order.
And you may be seated. Order business 2, reading and approval of the journal.
Carson City, Monday, April 3rd,
Assemblywoman
2023.
Howdeggy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to end with the reading of the journal and allow the Speaker and the Chief Clerk to make any necessary corrections and additions.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. Order business 4, reports of standing committees.
Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Commerce and Labor, to which will refer to Assembly Bills 2339, has had the same under consideration and begs leave to report the same back with the recommendation amend and do pass as amended. And your Committee on Commerce and Labor, to which was referred to Assembly Bill 27, has had the same under consideration and begs leave to report the same back with the recommendation amend and do pass as amended. And your Committee on Commerce and Labor, to which will refer to Assembly Bills 146, 251, has had the same under consideration and begs leave to report the same back with the recommendation amend and do pass as amended. Elaine Marzola, Chair. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Government Affairs, to which will refer to Assembly Bills 52, 366, has had the same under consideration and begs leave to report the same back with the recommendation do pass. And your Committee on Government Affairs, to which will refer to Assembly Bills 44, 143, has had the same under consideration and begs leave to report the same back with the recommendation and do pass as amended. Solana Torres, Chair. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Growth and Infrastructure, to which will refer to Assembly Bills 56, 144, 203 has had the same under consideration and begs leave to report the same back with the recommendation and then do pass as amended. And your Committee on Growth and Infrastructure, to which will refer to Assembly Bills 57, 151, 195 has had the same under consideration and begs leave to report the same back with the recommendation and then do pass as amended. Howard Watts, Chair. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Health and Human Services, to which will refer to Assembly Bills 40, 167 has had the same under consideration and begs leave to report the same back with the recommendation and then do pass as amended. And your Committee on Health and Human Services, to which was referred to Assembly Bill 45, has had the same under consideration and begs leave to report the same back with the recommendation and do pass as amended. And your Committee on Health and Human Services, to which was referred to Assembly Bill 277, has had the same under consideration and begs leave to report the same back with the recommendation and do pass as amended. Sarah Peters, Chair. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Judiciary, to which will refer to Assembly Bills 35, 51, 67, 101, 145, 183, has had the same under consideration and begs leave to report the same back with the recommendation and do pass as amended. And your Committee on Judiciary, to which will refer to Assembly Bills 121, 122, has had the same under consideration and begs leave to report the same back with the recommendation and do pass as amended. And your Committee on Judiciary, to which was referred to Assembly Bill 255, has had the same under consideration and begs leave to report the same back with the recommendation and do pass as amended. Brittany Miller, Chair. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Natural Resources, to which will refer to Assembly Bills 46, 97, 109, has had the same under consideration and begs leave to report the same back with the recommendation and do pass as amended. Leslie E. Cohen, Chair.
Order business 8, motions, resolutions, and notices.
Notice of exemption, April 3rd, 2023. The Fiscal Analysis Division, pursuant to Joint Standing Rule 14.6, has determined the exemption of Assembly Bills 248, 273, 306, 346, 347, 351, and 382. And the Fiscal Analysis Division, pursuant to Joint Standing Rule 14.6, has determined the eligibility for exemption of Assembly Bills 253, 258, 261, 294, 302, 315, 336, 348, 364, 369, 376, 390, 399, 425, 433, and 443. Sarah Kaufman, Fiscal Analysis Division. Notice of exemption, April 5th, 2023. The Fiscal Analysis Division, pursuant to Joint Standing Rule 14.6, has determined the eligibility for exemption of Assembly Bills 293, 313, 326, 353, 357, 385, and 457. Sarah Kaufman, Fiscal Analysis Division. Notice of exemption, April 6, 2023. The Fiscal Analysis Division, pursuant to Joint Standing Rule 14.6, has determined the eligibility for exemption of Senate Bill 68, 144, 186, 240, 320, 396, and 402. Wayne Thorley, Fiscal Analysis Division.
Assemblywoman Howdeggy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the persons as set forth on the Nevada Legislature's press accreditation list of April 6, 2023 be accepted as accredited press representatives, that they be assigned space at the press table in the Assembly chamber, that they be allowed the use of appropriate broadcasting facilities, and that the list be included in this day's journal.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. Assemblywoman Howdeggy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to withdraw Assembly Bill 317 from your Committee on Education.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. Assemblywoman Howdeggy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to re-refer Assembly Bill 317 to your Committee on Ways and Means.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. Assemblywoman Howdeggy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to withdraw Assembly Bill 423 from your Committee on Education.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. Assemblywoman Howdigee.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to re-refer Assembly Bill 423 to your Committee on Government Affairs.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Anyone opposed, nay. Motion carries. We'll go to Order of Business 11, second reading and amendment.
Assembly Bill 13, introduced by the Committee on Government Affairs and Activating Governmental Administration, revising provisions governing the protections against reprisal or retaliatory action provided for a state officer or employee who discloses certain governmental action and providing other matters properly in thereto. The people's state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1, end of Section 1, Section 2, end of Section 2, end of bill.
Are there any amendments to Section 1 of the bill as a whole?
I have Amendment 36, proposed by the Assembly Committee on Government Affairs.
Assemblywoman Torres.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to adopt Amendment 36 to AB 13.
Assemblywoman Torres has moved to adopt Amendment number 36 to Assembly Bill 13. Remarks?
Amendment 36 increases from 10 to 60 the number of working days that certain written appeals must be filed with the hearing officer of the personal commission after the date on which the alleged violation of certain whistleblower laws occurred.
Are there any further remarks? Seeing none, all those in favor of adopting Amendment number 36 to Assembly Bill 13 signify by saying aye. Anyone opposed, nay. Motion carries. The amendment is adopted. The bill is ordered reprinted and grossed into general file.
Assembly Bill 22, introduced by the Committee on Commerce and Labor, and Act relating to contractors, revising provisions governing the actions that the State Contractors Board is authorized or required to take after the issuance of a cease and desist order for unlicensed activity and providing other matters properly in thereto. The people's state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1, end of Section 1, end of bill.
Are there any amendments to Section 1 of the bill as a whole?
I have Amendment 39, proposed by the Assembly Committee on Commerce and Labor.
Assemblywoman Marzola.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to adopt Amendment 39 to Assembly Bill 22.
Assemblywoman Marzola has moved to adopt Amendment number 39 to Assembly Bill 22. Remarks? Assemblywoman Marzola.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Amendment 39 to Assembly Bill 22 does the following. Amend subsection 3B of Section 1 to require the State Contractors Board, after issuing a cease and desist order, to issue an administrative citation and impose an administrative fine if the violation is a first violation and does not involve fraud or theft.
Are there any further remarks? Seeing none, all those in favor of adopting Amendment number 39 to Assembly Bill 22 signify by saying aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. The amendment is adopted. Are there any further amendments?
There are none.
The bill is ordered reprinted and grossed into general file.
Assembly Bill 24, introduced by the Committee on Health and Human Services, and Act relating to emergency medical services, revising the membership of the Committee on Emergency Medical Services to add a member who is employed by or volunteers with an agency, organization, or other operator that provides emergency medical services on tribal land and providing other matters properly in thereto. The people's state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1, end of Section 1, Section 2, end of Section 2, end of bill.
Are there any amendments to Section 1 of the bill as a whole?
I have Amendment 26, proposed by the Assembly Committee on Health and Human Services.
Assemblywoman Peters.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to adopt Amendment 26 to Assembly Bill 24.
Assemblywoman Peters has moved to adopt Amendment number 26 to Assembly Bill 24. Remarks?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Amendment 26 to Assembly Bill 24 does the following. Increases from 9 to 11 the number of members appointed by the State Board of Health to the Committee on Emergency Medical Services, revises provisions that the committee shall recommend and the board shall appoint a member providing emergency medical services on tribal lands, and adds a committee member who works for or volunteers with a local governmental agency providing emergency medical services other than a firefighting or law enforcement agency.
Are there any further remarks? Seeing none, all those in favor of adopting Amendment number 26 to Assembly Bill 24 signify by saying aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. The amendment is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill?
There are none.
The bill is ordered reprinted and grossed into general file.
Assembly Bill 28, introduced by the Committee on Government Affairs and Act relating to State Treasurer, establishing the Nevada Baby Bonds Program and the Nevada Baby Bonds Trust Fund, setting forth the duties and responsibilities of the State Treasurer in administering the program and trust fund, authorizing the State Treasurer to adopt regulations relating to the program, making an appropriation, and providing other matters properly laying thereto. The people's state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1, end of Section 1, Section 17, end of Section 17, end of bill.
Are there any amendments to Section 1 of the bill as a whole?
I have Amendment 37, proposed by the Assembly Committee on Government Affairs.
Assemblywoman Torres.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to adopt Amendment 37 to AB 28.
Assemblywoman Torres has moved to adopt amendment number 37 to Assembly Bill 28. Remarks.
Amendment 37 requires a designated beneficiary to successfully complete a course in financial literacy approved by the state treasurer prior to being able to claim funds credited to them in the Nevada Baby Bonds Trust Fund.
Are there any further remarks? Seeing none, all those in favor of adopting amendment number 37 to Assembly Bill 28 signify by saying aye. Any opposed, nay? Motion carries. The amendment is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill?
There are none.
The bill is ordered reprinted and engrossed into general file.
Assembly Bill 29, introduced by the Committee on Commerce and Labor, an act relating to contractors revising the grounds for disciplinary action against a licensed contractor by the State Contractors Board to include certain acts related to another person's application for a contractor's license and providing other matters properly in thereto. The people of the state of Nevada represented in Senate and Assembly do enact as follows. Section 1, end of Section 1, Section 2, end of Section 2, end of bill.
Are there any amendments to Section 1 of the bill as a whole?
I have Amendment 42, proposed by the Assembly Committee on Commerce and Labor.
Assemblywoman Marzola.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to adopt Amendment 42 to Assembly Bill 29.
Assemblywoman Marzola has moved to adopt amendment number 42 to Assembly Bill 29. Remarks?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Amendment 42 to Assembly Bill 29 does the following. Removes the provisions of subsection 14 of Section 1 of the bill and provides that the making or the causing to be made of a false or misleading statement or representation or the omission of a material fact by a licensee who is a natural person and owner of a licensee, a managing officer of a licensee, or any person who qualifies on behalf of a licensee in connection with the application of another person for a contractor's license for the purpose of assisting the applicant to obtain a license constitutes cause for disciplinary action against a licensee by the State Contractors Board. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Are there any further remarks? Seeing none, all those in favor of adopting amendment number 42 to Assembly Bill 29, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed, nay? Motion carries. The amendment is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill?
There are none.
The bill is ordered reprinted, engrossed, and to general file.
Assembly Bill 69, introduced by the Committee on Education, an act relating to behavioral health, making certain providers of behavioral health care eligible to participate in the program of loan repayment administered by the Nevada Health Services Corps, making an appropriation and providing other matters properly in thereto. The people of the state of Nevada represented in Senate and Assembly do enact as follows. Section 1, end of Section 1, Section 10, end of Section 10, end of bill.
Are there any amendments to Section 1 of the bill as a whole?
I have Amendment 49, proposed by the Assembly Committee on Education.
Assemblywoman Bilbray Axelrod.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to adopt Amendment 49 to Assembly Bill 69.
Assemblywoman Bilbray Axelrod has moved to adopt amendment number 49 to Assembly Bill 69. Remarks?
Assembly Bill 69 does the following. It expands Section 4 of the bill to include certain school professionals and expands the public school setting to include pre-kindergarten.
Are there any further remarks? Seeing none, all those in favor of adopting amendment number 49 to Assembly Bill 69, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed, nay? Motion carries. The amendment is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill?
There are none.
The bill is ordered reprinted, engrossed into general file.
Assembly Bill 110, introduced by the Committee on Commerce and Labor, an act relating to pharmacy, authorizing a manufacturer or wholesaler to dispense a dialysate drug or deliver a device used to perform dialysis at a residence to certain persons and entities, providing penalty and providing other matters properly in thereto. The people of the state of Nevada represented in Senate and Assembly do enact as follows. Section 1, end of Section 1, Section 7, end of Section 7, end of bill.
Are there any amendments to Section 1 of the bill as a whole?
I have Amendment 17, proposed by the Assembly Committee on Commerce and Labor.
Assemblywoman Marzola.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to adopt Amendment 17 to Assembly Bill 110.
Assemblywoman Marzola has moved to adopt amendment number 17 to Assembly Bill 110. Remarks?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Amendment 17 to Assembly Bill 110 does the following. Revises the definition of dialysate drug to set forth in subsection 6(8) of section of the bill to mean a drug solely composed of fluids, electrolytes, and sugars used by dialysis.
Are there any further remarks? Seeing none, all those in favor of adopting amendment number 17 to Assembly Bill 110, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed, nay? Motion carries. The amendment is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill?
There are none.
The bill is ordered reprinted and engrossed into general file.
Assembly Bill 112, introduced by the Committee on Growth and Infrastructure, an act relating to wildlife, creating the Wildlife Crossings account in the State General Fund, requiring the Director of the Department of Transportation to administer the account, requiring the Department of Transportation in consultation with the Department of Wildlife to develop and publish an inventory and list of certain projects relating to wildlife crossings, requiring the Director of the Department of Transportation to review the standards and specifications for the design and construction of highways in the state to determine the standards and specifications necessary for incorporating wildlife crossings and related highway features into the highways of the state, authorizing the Director of the Department of Transportation to adopt regulations requiring the State Board of Finance to issue general obligation bonds to implement projects relating to wildlife crossings, and providing other matters properly laid thereto. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows: Section 1, end of Section 1, Section 7, end of Section 7, end of bill.
Are there any amendments to Section 1 of the bill as a whole?
I have Amendment 31, proposed by the Assembly Committee on Growth and Infrastructure.
Assemblyman Watts.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move for the adoption of Amendment 31 to Assembly Bill 112.
Assemblyman Watts has moved for the adoption of Amendment number 31 to Assembly Bill 112. Remarks?
Thank you. The amendment defines wildlife, adds a consultation provision, and replaces the funding source.
Are there any further remarks? Seeing none, all those in favor of adopting Amendment number 31 to Assembly Bill 112, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. The amendment is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill?
There are none.
The bill is ordered reprinted and engrossed into general file.
Assembly Bill 140, introduced by Assemblyman Thomas et al., Senator Spearman et al., an act relating to legal holidays, making Juneteenth Day a legal holiday in the state and providing other matters properly laid thereto. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows: Section 1, end of Section 1, Section 4, end of Section 4, end of bill.
Are there any amendments to Section 1 of the bill as a whole?
I have Amendment 35, proposed by the Assembly Committee on Government Affairs.
Assemblywoman Torres.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to adopt Amendment 35 to AB 140.
Assemblywoman Torres has moved to adopt Amendment number 35 to Assembly Bill 140. Remarks?
Amendment 35 adds a sponsor to the bill.
Are there any further remarks? Seeing none, all those in favor of adopting Amendment number 35 to Assembly Bill 140, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. The amendment is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill?
There are none.
The bill is ordered reprinted and engrossed into general file.
Assembly Bill 158, introduced by Assemblyman O'Neill et al., an act relating to emergency medical services, ratifying the recognition of emergency medical services personnel licensure interstate compact, and providing other matters properly laid thereto. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows: Section 1, end of Section 1, Section 23, end of Section 23, end of bill.
Are there any amendments to Section 1 of the bill as a whole?
There are none.
The bill is ordered to general file.
Assembly Bill 164, introduced by Assemblyman Yeager, an act relating to outdoor recreation, requiring the Division of Outdoor Recreation and the State Department of Conservation and Natural Resources to establish an outdoor education advisory working group during the 2023-2024 interim to study approaches to incorporate outdoor recreation into the curriculum of the public education system in the state, prescribing the membership and duties of the Outdoor Education Advisory Working Group, and providing other matters properly laid thereto. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows: Section 1, end of Section 1, Section 2, end of Section 2, end of bill.
Are there any amendments to Section 1 of the bill as a whole?
I have Amendment 51, proposed by the Assembly Committee on Education.
Assemblywoman Bilbray Axelrod.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to adopt Amendment 51 to Assembly Bill 164.
Assemblywoman Bilbray Axelrod has moved to adopt Amendment number 51 to Assembly Bill 164. Remarks?
Amendment 51 to Assembly Bill 164 does the following: provides an outdoor advisory education working group with one bill draft request, expands the working group membership by adding one superintendent to be appointed by the Nevada Association of School Superintendents, and one parent or legal guardian of a pupil enrolled in public school system to be appointed by the Speaker of the Assembly. Allows for the Division of Outdoor Recreation to accept gifts, grants, and donations to carry out the mission of the working group, and provides that certain working group members are relieved from their duties without loss of regular compensation in order to carry out the working group's mission.
Are there any further remarks? Seeing none, all those in favor of adopting Amendment number 51 to Assembly Bill 164 signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. The amendment is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill?
There are none.
The bill is ordered reprinted and engrossed in the general file.
Assembly Bill 178, introduced by Assemblyman Gurr et al., an act relating to emergency medical services, revising provisions related to permit renewals for certain operators of ambulances, air ambulances, or vehicles of firefighting agencies, and providing other matters properly in thereto. The people's state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows: Section 1, end of Section 1, Section 2, end of Section 2, end of bill.
Are there any amendments to Section 1 of the bill as a whole?
I have Amendment 28, proposed by the Assembly Committee on Health and Human Services.
Assemblywoman Peters.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to adopt Amendment 28 to Assembly Bill 178.
Assemblywoman Peters moved to adopt amendment number 28 to Assembly Bill 178. Remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Amendment 28 to Assembly Bill 178 reduces from 5 to 2 years the length of a permit issued or renewed by a health authority for an ambulance, air ambulance, or firefighting vehicle.
Are there any further remarks? Seeing none, all those in favor of adopting amendment number 28 to Assembly Bill 178, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. The amendment is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill?
There are none.
The bill is ordered reprinted and engrossed in the general file.
Assembly Bill 189, introduced by Assemblywoman Howdigy, an act relating to construction, setting forth certain limitations on the Board of County Commissioners or the governing body of a city and certain counties, and adopting an ordinance restricting hours in which construction work may begin during certain times of the year in a common interest community, prohibiting under certain circumstances a common interest community from restricting the hours that construction work may begin in certain counties or cities during certain times of the year, and providing other matters properly in thereto. The people's state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows: Section 1, end of Section 1, Section 7, end of Section 7, end of bill.
Are there any amendments to Section 1 of the bill as a whole?
I have Amendment 38, proposed by the Assembly Committee on Government Affairs.
Assemblywoman Torres.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to adopt Amendment 38 to AB 189.
Assemblywoman Torres has moved to adopt amendment number 38 to Assembly Bill 189. Remarks?
Amendment 38 further limits the scope of the bill to a declarant-controlled common interest community, which is one where the original developer controls the majority of the units. The hours for construction work in such a community must be allowed to begin at, but no earlier than 5 a.m. during the period beginning on April 1st and ending on September 30th. The amendment changes the effective date from July 1st, 2023 to upon passage and approval. So this will be in effect in time for the hot summer months in Clark County.
Are there any further remarks? Seeing none, all those in favor of adopting amendment number 38 to Assembly Bill 189, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. The amendment is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill?
There are none.
The bill is ordered reprinted and engrossed in the general file.
Assembly Bill 206, introduced by Assemblywoman Brown May, an act relating to persons with disabilities, increasing the membership of the Nevada Commission for persons who are deaf and hard of hearing, and providing other matters properly in thereto. The people's state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows: Section 1, end of Section 1, Section 3, end of Section 3, end of bill.
Are there any amendments to Section 1 of the bill as a whole?
There are none.
The bill is ordered to general file.
Assembly Bill 276, introduced by Assemblyman Duran et al., an act relating to healthcare, authorizing the use of telehealth for certain communication between providers of healthcare and providing other matters properly in thereto. The people's state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows: Section 1, end of Section 1, Section 2, end of Section 2, end of bill.
Are there any amendments to Section 1 of the bill as a whole?
There are none.
The bill is ordered to general file.
Assembly Bill 284, introduced by Assemblywoman Kasama, an act relating to mortgage companies, authorizing an employee of a mortgage company, including a mortgage loan originator, employed by or associated with the mortgage company, to conduct the business of the mortgage company at a remote location under certain circumstances, setting forth certain requirements and restrictions concerning the conducting of the business of a mortgage company at a remote location, requiring the Commissioner of Mortgage Lending to adopt certain regulations and providing other matters properly in thereto. The people's state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows: Section 1, end of Section 1, Section 3, end of Section 3, end of bill.
Are there any amendments to Section 1 of the bill as a whole?
There are none.
The bill is ordered to general file.
Assembly Bill 289, introduced by Assemblyman Carter et al., Senator Pezina, an act relating to human remains, authorizing the use of natural organic reduction for the cremation of human remains, revising various provisions relating to the disposition of human remains, providing penalty, and providing other matters properly in thereto. The people's state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, to enact as follows: Section 1, end of Section 1, Section 10, end of Section 10, end of bill.
Are there any amendments to Section 1 of the bill as a whole?
There are none.
The bill is ordered to general file. Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno, I suspect you might like to make a motion.
Just a few. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Order of Business 8.
Order of Business 8.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the following Assembly bills: Assembly Bill 28, 69, 112, 140, 158, and 178 be taken from their place on general file and re-referred to your Committee on Ways and Means.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. Under order of business 13, unfinished business of the preceding day, there being no objection, the Speaker and Chief Clerk will sign Assembly Resolution Number 6. We're now up to order of business 15, remarks from the floor. Assemblyman Carter.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd ask that all members of the Nevada Society of Scottish Clans please stand up. And I've got a proclamation here, whereas April 6th commemorates all that is best in Scottish history and culture, as well as the anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Arbroath, the Scottish Declaration of Independence, written in 1321 at Arbroath Abbey, located on the east coast of Scotland. And whereas Tartan Day, April 6, honors the contributions of Scots and Americans of Scottish descent have made to the history and development of the United States of America, and is recognized internationally, with 6 countries actively participating in its celebration. Whereas the Declaration of Scottish Independence included the famous words that are embedded in the hearts of all Scots today. It is in truth, not for glory, nor riches, nor honor that we are fighting, but for freedom, for that alone which no honest man gives up, but with life itself. And whereas the official state of Nevada tartan was adopted during its 71st legislative session, when Senate Bill 347 was signed into law May 8, 2001, designating the tartan designed by Richard Zygmunt Pawlowski to represent our state, and honors Nevada through its majestic colors and thoughtful pattern. And I just want to say that Nevada has always been one of those states where being a native does not mean you were born here. Everybody sitting on the floor down here is a native Nevadan and embraces Nevada. Now recognize that we are all members of Clan Nevada. And thank you all, and please join me in making the Nevada Society of Scottish Clans welcome.
Assemblywoman Peters.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have a couple of introductions, if I may. I will start with the Jesse Beck students. If you're from Jesse Beck Elementary School, will you please stand up so we can recognize you? You guys beat me to the punch. These are our 4th and 5th grade students from Miss Christy Fernandez and Mr. Josh Newman's classes. Many of these students are a part of the dual language program where they spend half their days learning in Spanish and half in English. This is only one of 2 programs in Washoe County School District, so thank you for making them feel welcome today. I have a second person to acknowledge today, so if you guys can sit down, and Mr. Speaker, if I may, introduce my intern for this session, Miss Rachel Freshman. She's a master's She's working on a Master's of Public Health at UNR and is on track to graduate next month. Rachel has worked in the public health sector for the last 2 years and is passionate about health equity and reducing barriers to care. She is hoping to continue to address barriers and promote public health in the state once she has completed her master's program, and I'm so grateful to have her here while we're working on health and human services issues. Please help me make Rachel feel welcome.
Assemblyman Hafen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today is also Public Power Day. We have here today the Nevada Rural Electric Association, and this group is near and dear to my heart. Many of you know I come from Pahrump. My grandfather moved there in 1951 when there was no power. There was no running water. Heck, there wasn't even roads, let alone a cell phone. I don't know how they got through. It wasn't until the 60s that a power company was actually started in Pahrump. And this is a testament to the leaders that are here today with the Rural Electric Association, to their commitment to not only providing power to all of us, but to rolling up their sleeves and moving our communities forward. Without them, we wouldn't have lights, we'd be working in the dark, and our cell phones wouldn't be charged. So if you would all please rise and thank them for all that they do for us. Thank you.
Assemblywoman Cohen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have a proclamation. Assistant. I won't read the whole thing, but if I may, whereas Americans are blessed with constitutional guarantees to practice their religious freedoms, and Nevadans represent a diversity of faiths and traditions, including a Jewish population of nearly 80,000 individuals that make up more than 2.5% of the total state population. And whereas Passover is the commemorative Jewish feast holiday that honors and recalls how the Israelites in ancient Egypt became free from bondage, and a narrative that incorporates themes of family, history of the Jewish people, and new life, as well as social justice and freedom. Whereas a Passover Seder, which was open to all, was sponsored by John Farahi, the Chief Executive Officer of Atlantis Casino and Resort and Spa, Alpine Strategies, LLC, and Jewish legislators from the building, was celebrated last night in room 3100. Now therefore be proclaimed that John Farahi is recognized for his contributions and service to the Jewish community by supporting the Passover Seder at the legislature last night. And all of us just want to wish everyone a happy Passover. So thank you, everyone.
Assemblywoman LaRue Hatch.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have the honor today to introduce the Washoe Education Association, so I would like those members to please rise. So I am very, very proud to be a member of the Washoe Education Association, as is our colleague from District 30. These represent the certified educators in Washoe County. So we have teachers, nurses, librarians, and all other certified professionals within our schools. And every day they are working to make sure our 64,000 students are learning, are supported, and are successful throughout their academic careers. And I am so proud that not only are they doing that day in and day out in the classroom, they're actually coming here to advocate for our kids. And I think that is very powerful. And I would love if you could join me in welcoming them to our chamber.
Assemblyman O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today we are honored, and I'm very excited to introduce to our body the senior government class from Virginia City High School. Would you all please stand? You didn't know VC High had such a large senior class, I bet you. I'm impressed. This is the government class from Story County, Virginia City, of which are a member of the exciting district of Assembly District 40, which I represent. They are here with their teacher, Mr. Rob Turner, and Miss Kim Hames of the school board, of the county school, their district outreach coordinator. They took a bus, toured our capital, and are excited to be here in our chambers today. Thank you for coordinating Superintendent Todd Hess, and thank you for the members for making them all feel welcome. If you would, please. Thank you.
Assemblywoman Torres.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Could I ask anyone with the UNR School of Public Health to please rise? Today, we're honored to have with us the University of Nevada, Reno School of Public Health, which works to develop, disseminate, and apply knowledge to protect and promote the health and well-being of individuals, families, and communities across the state. As one of Nevada's primary pipelines for public health professionals, the school prepares students for rewarding careers, improving community health and equity, and eliminating health disparities across the state. More than 80% of graduates stay in Nevada to live and work, becoming public health leaders who develop and evaluate health programs, provide accessible community health services, conduct innovative research, implement systemic change, and affect and inform policy. The School of Public Health is proud of its 2,000 undergraduate students, nearly 300 grad students, and the fact that it brings in 15% of the university's research funding. While located in Northern Nevada, the school's reach and impact extend beyond campus and into our communities statewide. We know that policy is critical to improving the health of communities, and today more than 40 students and 20 faculty and staff join us to see firsthand how the policymaking process unfolds, to meet with and learn from us, and be inspired by the potential of policy to impact people's lives. If we could give them a warm welcome.
Assemblywoman Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to acknowledge and to celebrate my mother, who turns 80 years old on tomorrow. We're having a big party, big celebration, Motown theme, so come join us if you like. We'll see your dress, I'll give it to you. But Mom loves to dance, so we will be there for a while. But I just want to thank Mom, if you're listening, although you aren't, because I know our family's in town and she's out doing whatever, but just thank her publicly on record for her love, for her legacy, for her sacrifice, and for all that she's done for our family 4 generations strong. So please help me say happy birthday to my wonderful dear mother.
Assemblyman De Silva.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just wanted to introduce a special guest here. This is Mr. Raja Fayaz. Raja Fayaz is originally from Pakistan. He's seen as a community uncle in the South Asian community in Las Vegas. He's done a great deal of work for the immigrants from that part of the world, as a small business advocate and an advocate of our community. I just wanted to take this time to publicly recognize him for the decades-long work that he has done here for the people of Southern Nevada. So please join me in welcoming him.
Assemblywoman Brown May.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have 2 wonderful guests with me today. If you will both rise, please. They are both constituents from Assembly District 42, and I'm honored to have them here with us today. I'd like to introduce you to Lillian Branner, who is here with us for Oral Health Day. So for those of us who love to go to the dentist, if there's anyone else here for Oral Health Day, please rise, also so that we may acknowledge you and the wonderful work that you do to support our communities. Please help them feel welcome. And if I may, Mr. Speaker, one more. I would like to take this opportunity to introduce you to my niece. This is Ilia Sandez, and she is a self-advocate and a current student in University of Arizona, and she has decided to spend her spring break here with us, learning the legislative process. She's also a part of the Nevada Commission on Services for People with Disabilities, and is taking that new job to a whole new level. So please help her feel welcome. Thank you.
Do we have any other order of business 15? Assemblywoman Howdigi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We are celebrating a lot of days today, and I think we've had them covered with the announcements by my colleagues, but I do want to announce that tomorrow is AARP Senior Day and Senior Coalition Day, so let's make them feel welcome tomorrow when we see them. And seeing no other business, Mr. Speaker, I move that we stand adjourned until Tuesday, April 11th at the hour of 11:30 a.m.
Assemblywoman Howdigi has moved that the Assembly stand adjourned until Tuesday, April 11th, 2023 at the hour of 11:30 a.m. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? Motion carries. We are adjourned.
Will the students from Jesse Beck Elementary School please meet their teacher in the back?
Okay, Government Affairs and Education Committees, please report to your committees. I'm sorry, not Government Affairs, Growth and Infrastructure Growth and Infrastructure and Education, please report to your committees. You will be starting soon.